Hey guys, it's Mikleo. Welcome to a sort of bonus addition to my Twilight Princess HD streams, where I played through the entirety of the game with Hero Mode on and the Ganondorf Amiibo activated. And for those of you who aren't aware, Hero Mode makes it so you take 2 times damage, and you won't find any heart drops anywhere, aside from like 2 specific places that don't really matter. Which are your fans in Castletown, and I believe the Yetis. They'll give you hearts, but no one else. And then the Ganondorf Amiibo makes it so you take an additional 2 times damage, so for a total of 4 times damage with no health drops, which can make a lot of things quite difficult. The main game doesn't get too terribly bad later on. There are some enemies like King Bulbin who will give you trouble, or pretty much King Bulbin. But earlier on is where it's the hardest, because you only have 3 hearts, and pretty much anything will kill you at that point. But as long as you're prepared with potions and everything, things aren't horrible. But the Cave of Shadows only gives you 2 ways to heal, which also come in the form of the Amiibos. There's the Zelda Amiibo and the Sheik Amiibo at that, which will both heal you to full. I only have the Zelda Amiibo, so I do use that. As well as the Wolf Link Amiibo, which will heal you for as many hearts as you finished the Cave of Shadows the last time with. And I finished the second phase of the Cave of Shadows with 14 hearts, so I can use it to heal me for 14 hearts. Regardless, the first section of the Cave of Shadows, the first 5 floors, aren't really that difficult. It's just a matter of using Midna's attack properly and figuring out when to just target enemies normally, because a lot of the smaller enemies, if you just jump at, you'll pause for a second. So if an enemy's on their own, it's fine to do that, but if you're facing an enemy in the group, you probably don't want to normally jump at a small enemy, because it'll trap you for half a second, and that can open you up to damage. So basically, I rely on Midna's attack a lot, because it's an easy way to lock on, and I think it does more damage than your normal attacks. And when you're hitting smaller enemies, you don't have to pause and wait after you attack them. And the locking on thing is especially good, because while doing this, I had some trouble with locking on, where it would never quite lock on to what I wanted it to. You would think locking on to the only thing in camera view and not something 9 feet behind you would be a simple request, but the game would disagree. Anyway, the Deku Babas were something. I don't know if the Deku Babas ever hurt me, but they're something I get sort of anxious about, since I feel like they have a lot of opportunities to sort of get cheap hits off on you. And even if they don't, they latch onto you and grab onto you, which is kind of horrifying. But basically, the main thing to keep in mind while doing the Cave of Shadows, especially when you don't have the health to spare, is to be patient. You are going to be taking hits, more than likely. It might be possible to do this without taking hits, but you'd have to do things perfectly, and even then be lucky, I feel. But basically, just be patient, don't rush in, because if you rush in, you're going to be taking more hits than you need to. And you really just want to minimize the damage you're taking as possible, because as I mentioned earlier, your options for healing are really quite limited. You only have, if you only have the Wolf Link Amiibo, that's only one option for healing. So and it's not necessarily great unless you waited to do the second segment of this dungeon until you had full heart containers. If you're not playing on hero mode, there are dig spots throughout the Cave of Shadows that you can use to dig up hearts, which I would imagine is quite helpful, but I haven't played Twilight Princess HD on normal mode. I've only played Twilight Princess HD on stream, actually. Well, and this video, but that's still on recording. So, Tektites are pretty simple. As long as you keep your distance and just attack them with Midna, there's not much they can really do to you. The main problem in this dungeon, aside from your limited healing, is that there's just a lot of enemies, like these archers here, that Wolflink just really isn't equipped to deal with. Like, Wolflink has no way to block arrows, and then there's other enemies where it's just... it's kind of a crapshoot whether they're gonna hit you or not. And I'll talk about those once those enemies appear, but... the archers in particular were a real pain in my ass. The dongos are quite simple, you just gotta get behind them. I once, in one of my attempts I don't know if this was on stream or not, but in one of my attempts I had a thing where a Dodongo hit me while I was behind it, and that confused me a lot. I don't know what really happened there. But yeah, I'm not sure whether that's on stream or if it was in a failed attempt at this, because this took me several hours to actually get a run where I actually complete it. It took a little bit. I don't know how many failed attempts I had, because I didn't really keep the failed recordings, because I wasn't talking on them. This is all post commentary, so other than just keeping around how I died, I didn't really think there was anything in value with keeping them around. But yeah, it took... I don't know why I paused right there. Maybe I was responding to a message on Discord or something. I'm not sure. This room is a room I like, because you can't take damage in it. All you got is those ghost rats, you just let them jump onto you, and then you spin attack to just send them flying. No more ghost rats. This room is one that I think is kind of hit or miss. I don't think I have any troubles with it in this one, but the quicksand makes it kind of annoying to get to the different enemies without sort of trapping yourself. And as always, I make frequent use of Midna's attack, because it just lets me lock onto an enemy easier, and I can use it from anywhere, I'm pretty sure. Whereas if you are in the quicksand, you can't jump. You might be able to normal attack. That one freaked me out as I did it, because I'm like, I just jumped at the last possible second, so I'm like, oh god, oh no, oh boy, what the heck? And just narrowly avoided damage. Why did I pause here? What? I recorded this last night, so like what I was thinking isn't entirely fresh in my mind. This is another room that I like because these enemies are just very easily dispatched with Midna's attack. I think there was an attempt where they hit me somehow, and I'm not quite sure how. Because I was in the middle of a jump when it happens. So. And redeads are intimidating if you don't know how to deal with them, but at least these two redeads on their own, when you know you can just jump on them and nom 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 away at them, they're not too terribly difficult to deal with. But I love how the bugs just immediately die once the door opens. They just explode off of your back. But there are redeads that appear later that kind of ruin your day. Also, were it not for the bulb and archers, I would have made it through the first two segments without taking any hits. Deku Babas are kind of... Yeah, I don't know what dealt damage to me there. But yeah, Deku Babas kind of annoy me because, for one, they're stationary, so you can't kite them around. They just kind of lock down an area, and you can't really do anything there unless you kill them. And also, they just, like earlier, there's a lot of like points where I feel like they just can get free hits off of you. I still really don't know what hurt me there. And yeah, basically, it reached the point where if I looked down and the enemies there were something I feel like I could easily dispatch. It was just like, okay, I don't at all trust that to be all that's there, so it's just basically just activate your sense so you can see if there's any little ghosty rats that you have to take care of before you focus on the other things, because you don't want to get caught having to evade when you're basically just pinned down by the ghost rats. I don't like to keep sense on because it makes it a bit harder to see otherwise. But if you think that something's a little bit too easy, probably activate your sense, because you're probably right. Because like the Helmosaurs just by themselves aren't much of a problem. But especially because there were only 3 there as opposed to the 4 that were earlier. Also, I hate Armos the most, I think. Other than ice rooms, the Armos rooms are my least favorite, because as I've been saying, Wolf-Link just really isn't equipped to deal with them. Because their hammers are like... The hammers have a really weird hitbox, and where the hammer has hit me when the thing isn't even swinging, which really grinds my gears. And also, after you kill it, it does that little freak out thing, which, again, it's really a crapshoot whether or not that hits you. So you just kind of gotta hope and pray and then get away immediately. And like half the damage I've taken is in this room in particular already, just because of one Armos, that because they hit like trucks too. You just kind of gotta dance around them and try and kill them as quick as possible, but without putting yourself in the ways with the hammers. Generally try to attack from the shield side of it, so you don't like jump into the hammer and get smoked. But and then here's a particularly difficult room with the Redeads and the Deku Babas. You can't really like kite them around very easily because of the Deku Babas, but you also... But taking out the Deku Babas is also kind of difficult because the Redeads are there. And yeah, I was wondering if I took any damage there. And yes, I took a lot of damage against the Redeads. You have enough time to get out of the way from a Redead attack if you do nothing else, and I believe I'm healing here. Yeah. Because I figured... with that amount of health remaining, my Wolf Link Amiibo isn't gonna heal me up all the way, so I'm not wasting any heals if I heal then, so may as well. But I do use my Zelda Amiibo, unfortunately, but I keep that around for, like, if I don't use it, I'm at risk of dying situations. Now that there's only one Redead left, I can kind of comfortably take care of most of the Deku Babas. But that one I needed to sort of lure away from the Deku Baba so they couldn't smoke me while I'm attacking it. And even then, I took some damage there. Very unfortunate. Fire rooms. Basically, the elemental rooms are my least favorite part of this, other than Armos. Because I don't know what... Well, I think the ice rooms are worse because you have to deal with slipping around, and ice enemies can do a lot of damage. And with the slugs were kind of a pain to deal with because I had to wait for them to attack while also making sure I wasn't gonna jump right into one of those fire spires. Because the fire spires can... The fire is what's keeping me from doing the Midna attack here, because you can't really control where you're going with that, so I didn't want to attack recklessly and then just end up throwing myself into an enemy that was doing a lot of damage. I believe all I have left is the keys, and then one more group of slugs next to the door. Oh, and one up there. Good thing I looked. Yeah, kind of just gotta... I think at this point the keys stop really targeting you, so... Which really kind of annoyed me a lot. Oh, I backed into a fire spire. Oof. I took a lot of unnecessary damage in these last two rooms, huh? But yeah, the fact that the keys don't really log on to you kind of annoyed me a bunch and made me get impatient. Because when they do lock onto you, it's a lot easier to target them. But when they don't, they tend to fly over the fire spires, and it's like... What do I do? It's very much a pain. I believe that's everyone in this room? Yes. And is the next room an ice room? No. No, it's too dark to be an ice room. Yeah, this is another room where we're like, alright, I don't trust this to be only bokoblins. And I was right to think that, because there are rats and there are bats. And the rats did not do any favors there. But yeah, it reached a point where, like, I don't quite remember what's in each and every room, but it reached a point where it's like, I kind of have a feeling where it's like, if I see bokoblins at this point, it's like, it's probably not just bokoblins. So I believe there are 39 floors, I believe. And 3 of those aren't. Oh, this is a room that particularly sucks. Because archers, along with enemies that can stop you in the your tracks like that, leaving it so maybe you're not taking a lot of damage from the Redeads in particular, but the Bulbin archers will be able to get a hit on you if you let them. And Midna's attack, while intimidating to pull off, is actually kind of good against the Redeads, because it does a lot of damage against them real quickly. And as I said, you do have enough time to get out of their way when they charge up their attacks. The first of the ice rings. This one isn't too bad, because if you charge up your Midna attack immediately rather than try and run away, you can kill all the wolf attackers in kind of one go. But if you try to run away as soon as they spawn, you're probably going to take damage against them. So, and your first instinct will probably be to run away. And yeah, this is one of the rooms where it's like, just chew jellies at this point? I don't think so. And even then, not a whole lot of chew jellies, so it's like, okay. This is clearly a room with something else going on. And yeah, chew jellies, honestly, they're intimidating to deal with because there can be a lot of them and they can get big real quickly. And the big ones are especially horrifying. But honestly, just keep locked on and keep jumping and it generally serves you pretty well. I don't know if this stops you from being hit entirely. I think you can still get hit by that, but it's incredibly unlikely. So, and you need to be attacking quickly so they don't charge up again. And chew jelly rooms are also kind of a pain because you have to wait for them to fall for the doors to unlock. And here's a room. Not only are there walls to stop you from jumping recklessly, but also the small ice enemies. I forget what they're called. Midna's attack just doesn't work on them. If you jump into them with Midna's attack, you're going to get hurt. And there's one of the things where I was talking about where the lock-on function doesn't quite do what I want it to. I was trying to lock onto one of the ice enemies, but instead it locked onto the ice keys at the last minute. And I just ended up not hitting either of them. Yeah, honestly, the ice platforms, while it makes it so you can't use Midna's attack recklessly, it does actually help a lot because of the guy that throws his ice spear. So you can use the ice walls sort of as cover against him rather than just kind of having to run around in the ice room avoiding spears. So it's kind of a blessing in disguise there. But there is an ice room later that has two of the ice spear guys, but no ice walls. And that's a real pain, because you just gotta keep running around, dodging the little ice guys. Yeah, you can see, like, every time I launch an attack, I duck back behind an ice wall if I don't have the guy with the spears in view. Because I don't want him to just smoke me with an ice spear like that while I'm focusing on something else. So it's just a matter of taking your time and keeping your distance from the guy with the ice spear until the room is set up so you can more easily deal with him. I forget what I think what was going through my mind there was that all the enemies were around Ice Spear Guy, which was intimidating and made it so, like, I didn't really want to go out. And yeah, you also, basically to take care of the Ice Spear guys, you just want to keep jumping at them, but also because of the ice walls here, you do want to be careful, because I believe they freeze you if you touch them, so you don't want to just jump with reckless abandon and then get frigging hypothermia or whatever from just freezing instantly, going into stasis or whatever. I don't know what I'm on about ever. Oh, this room. This is probably my least favorite room. Yeah, this is probably my least favorite room, because you got the 4 Armos. And these Armos, you can't... These Armos are ones that you can't, like, get far enough away and they'll go back to their original position. No, these ones will continuously chase you throughout the room. So if you activate more than one at a time, you're kind of you're kind of screwed, honestly. I had a run where I did that. I'm pretty sure it wasn't this one. I'm pretty sure it wasn't the successful run. I'm pretty sure I actually died here in that run where I activated 2 at once, and it was the worst. There wasn't really anything I could do about it. Because whenever I couldn't get behind one to target the other because the other would just smack me when I tried like that. And yeah, I pause right here and use my Zelda Amiibo to heal myself back to full. And that's all of my Amiibos that I can use for healing. I'm out at this point. So no more healing from here on. And yeah, I just take a lot of damage against Armos that I really don't think I could have predicted or done anything about. Because as I've said many times already, Wolf Link just isn't equipped to deal with it. But yeah, the Armos don't activate until you get too close, and neither do the doors with rats and keys behind them. And you kind of want to not activate the doors if you can. I made a sort of blunder by doing it there, and I take a lot of damage that I didn't need to against the rats. And I think at this point I was thinking that I wasn't going to make it this run, but that I may as well just continue. May as well just continue and try and get as much practice as possible. But obviously, because this is the video I'm commentating on and uploading on, I do make it to the end. Though there were a couple points there where I was worried. This room was definitely one of them, because I'm like, I'm taking way too much damage here. They force me to heal, and even then they take 6 hearts from me. And they might take even more, actually. I feel like I get all 10 hearts of the first row taken from me in this room, if I'm not mistaken. I don't quite remember. No, okay. But yeah, I could have definitely had a better run of that room. Just took way too much damage. Lizalfos and some Bokoblins. This isn't honestly too bad. I do remember reading some things where people had the same criticism as I did, where Wolf Link just isn't equipped to deal with a lot of the enemies, but unlike a lot of people, I don't think the armor Lizalfos are one of them. If you try to attack them with Reckless Abandon, of course you're not going to be able to do anything. They'll just keep blocking. But if you back up a bit, they'll run at you, and they leave themselves open when they're running at you. So you just kind of gotta attack them when they're running at you, and that'll be the bulk of your damage. And you can still hurt them with Midna's attack, even though they tend to block that a lot. And if you do land in some hits with that, that'll take a lot of their health away. Oof. Yeah, there's where I get knocked down too. This was a kind of annoying enemy layout for me, because all of the small freezy enemies, which are really the enemies I'm worried about, they were like circled around the spear guy. So it's like, how do I even address this? So you just kind of gotta... Separating enemies like this is really the name of the game a lot of the time. And just taking hits where you can. And I almost always refuse to attack if he hadn't already thrown his spear, because I didn't want him to throw his spear in the middle of my attack and just smoke me like that. Yeah, here's another part where I'm like, I don't really like where my health is. I took a lot of damage in this room. But I think it was fine because I played a lot of the other rooms pretty well and didn't take a lot of other needless hits in other rooms, that I was kind of free to take the hits here. This is the room with the two... this is the room with two jellies and armor guys. So my first order of business was to kind of take care of the lizards, and just because the chew jellies are kind of passive, so just as long as I was keeping my distance from them, it wasn't really an issue. But yeah, see where I'm backflipping away from him and then jumping at him while he's running at me, and that allows me to get hits in. So they're really not that bad. I honestly feel like they're easier to take care of as Wolf Link than they are as regular Link in that regard. Because you're able to defend against them easier as regular Link, but there's not a whole lot of... You don't have a whole lot of opportunities to sort of break through those defenses. And yes, another example of just having to wait for the Chew Jelly's remains to disappear. What was this room? This one was Keese and Deku Babas. And perhaps rats? No rats. But I had to check though, because Keese... Oh, there's the too good to be true enemy, even though Helmasaurs, especially big Helmasaurs, really aren't difficult to deal with, because they just don't react in time once you attack them. So it's easy to just get another hit on them as well. So the Helmasaurs weren't really a big deal as long as you were aware of where they are. But yeah, Deku Babas and Keese aren't that bad. It's just a matter of prioritizing which one to attack at what time. Which usually meant Keese, because Deku Babas are stationary, so you can just kind of leave them where they are while you focus on other things that are attacking you. I believe at this point there's a Deku Baba I completely missed. Yeah, the one right at the end there. I'm like, what enemy did I miss? Just kind of like staring around the room, looking, just what's going on? This is a room that's intimidating to walk in because of the two archers, but because of how the archers are positioned, it's not as bad, because these enemies die quickly, so you just kind of want to kite them under the platforms that the archers were on. And then the archers themselves are kind of hit or miss to get to, because they see you coming up before you come up. So that's kind of an issue. I don't know why I jumped to this guy on the right before I focused on the guy on the left here. Because I could have just jumped down on him, and then both of them would have been at ground level and easier to deal with. But yeah, I think this guy loads up his arrows before I'm even able to do anything about it. So it's just kind of, I gotta attack him as quick as I can to make it so he doesn't smoke me. And my attacks here are kind of sloppy, but they kind of have to be, because I don't want to give him time to load up another arrow and smoke me in the face. And then here's a room that's intimidating because of the Zant heads. The Keese aren't the problem, but the Zant heads, I believe there are 3 or 4 of them that appear at different times, all launching projectiles at you. So it's like, oh geez. And that one I got lucky with on attacking, because I was able to hit him twice with Midna's charge attack. And two charge attacks will do it, or 6 regular jumps. So yeah, my priority here was to take care of the Zant heads and make sure not to get smoked by their projectiles. There we go, yeah. The less Zant heads I have to worry about, the better. The Keese are kind of just a secondary worry. Attack them if you can, but otherwise just avoid them and focus on the one shooting things at you. And I believe we have 2 more rooms remaining. Yeah, here's a room with the dreaded archers. So they are my priority. So I don't want to get... Again, you don't want to get smoked by enemies with ranged attacks. Enemies with physical attacks aren't really an issue because you can just kind of kite them around. And you can kind of just manipulate them like that, because they won't attack you while they're chasing you around, only if they're stationary. So they're a lot easier to deal with in that regard. And then this is the final room. And really, the final room isn't that bad for the most part. The enemies it makes you face off against aren't really too terribly difficult. But the problem with the last room is that it operates in waves. You have the first wave with the 2 Dodongos, and this wave with all the skeleton type enemies. And then you have Zant heads to deal with. I'm very surprised I didn't actually get hit there. As well as Deku Babas, which I elected to not focus on because I wanted to make sure I was avoiding all the projectiles, so I didn't want to start committing to a Deku Baba attack and then either get smoked by a projectile and then have to abandon the Deku Baba attack, or have to get abandoned the Deku Baba attack and potentially get smoked by the Deku Baba while I was leaving it behind. So it was just a matter of, I wish I could have taken care of the Deku Babas earlier, but because I didn't, I had to sort of pick my priorities. And then now was the good time to take care of the Deku Babas, because now enemies will only appear on your own accord. There are 4 switches on the top, and each of those 4 switches will open a different door. So obviously you just want to activate these switches one-on-one, so you only fight as many enemies, so you only fight one like small group of enemies at a time. And this one is bokoblins as well as archers. Oh no, those weren't archers, those were just bulbins with clubs, so like it's not even an issue to deal with. So yeah, this is just a matter of going around in a circle, activating enemies one by one. And the enemies in the groups, small groups, really aren't that bad. I think there might be... That was kind of a dumb way to attack. I think there might be one of these that has a particularly nasty combination of enemies. But really, it's just a matter of using Midna jumps to victory. The enemies really aren't that bad. Because, like, let's take count already. We had a bunch of melee fighters that you could easily deal with. Then we had spiders you could easily deal with. And even before that, you had the Dongos, which aren't too bad, and a bunch of those mini skeleton enemies. Yeah, this is the only group of enemies that I would consider a problem. But even then, just barely, because you can just keep kiting them around and using your Midna jumps, and that'll deal with them pretty easily. And then you just use your backup and attack strategy to deal with the last armored Lizalfos. So yeah, the final room was intimidating because of the multiple waves, especially because like at this point I was looking at a wiki just to see what I was coming up against. So like seeing wave 1, wave 2 was like intimidating, but like once I got into it and saw that the groups of enemies weren't that difficult to take care of. It's like, oh, this is an easy and honestly relatively kind final floor. It's just a matter of kiting your enemies properly and prioritizing your attacks and everything. It's very nice. And now that this armored Lizalfos is dead, now all I have to deal with is 2 Helmasaurs and some Keese. And the Keese won't even come attack you until you go and wake them up. So it's like, alright. And here we go. The last enemies on this floor. And that is the Cave of Shadows. A great pain in the ass, to be sure. And I would assume so much easier if you aren't a freaking completionist masochist like me. But alas, I am one that must play games on harder difficulties when playing on my own. I guess if I was doing this as just a standard Let's Play, I would probably just play it normally. No hero mode, no Ganondorf Amiibo. But because it's on stream, and I was also playing this as sort of completionist stuff, I figured, hey, let's do a challenge run of it. And so I did. Don't be like me. This is how I have fun, but it's also very painful. But yeah, your reward is a wallet that can hold 9,999 rupees, and then an additional 200 rupees. It's something you would never need, especially at this point, because if you can get through the Cave of Shadows, especially on hero mode, it's like, what do I need these rupees for? I can stock up on potions, and those potions will be all I need. And yeah, and your reward, other than that, is a statue of you and Midna, which, I don't know about you, but I'm going to be using as the thumbnail. I don't know why I said I don't know about you. If you use this as your thumbnail for a video, all the power to you, but why would you use a clip from my video as a thumbnail for your video? I don't know. But regardless, that is it. And that is pretty much the end of my Twilight Princess series. So, thank you so very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video.